Chris, seriously, how do we keep doing this? How do we keep doing this? Number four from the same show? Because people, in case you hadn't seen from the title, as you can see, we are interviewing our fourth Kim's Convenience cast member, Gabriella Sundar Singh, better known as Chelsea from Kim's Convenience. Like, Chris, you gotta be on cloud nine right now. Like, 4 cast members from the show? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, man, it's like, every time I have my doubts about this whole entertainment industry thing, you just keep meeting these amazingly talented and nice people, and it's just like, keep going. And I'm so honored and blessed as we are on the show right now to be joined by her. So, man, I can't wait to get into this one, dude. We got a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
And just from like what I've gotten, like, as far as first impressions go, this is going to be a banger as far as that goes. So stay tuned for our next Kim's Convenience celebrity interview. All right, welcoming to the stage, Gabriella Sundar Singh, a.k.a. Chelsea. Gabby, happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here and to meet you both. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
This is something I think we've been looking forward to for quite some time, because as Dom told you in the pre-lobby, I completely fell in love with this little show called Kim's Convenience. I mean, it's insane to me how this show literally just swept me off my feet. I'm on Netflix and I'm looking for something to watch, and they have those amazing little sort of trailers that they make that get you to almost watch anything. I think it's why they're the number one streaming service still to this day.
That's right.
And out of all the options, I like, that was the quickest I ever picked something. Probably the quickest I ever watched the first 3 seasons. Waited desperately for season 4, was dying for season 5, and now we're here talking with you. So I just can't wait to sort of talk about and pick your brain about what you think makes that show so special to so many people like me.
Totally. And I'm excited to talk about the show because, as you said, it's had such an interesting like global reach. It really does touch a lot of people. It's hard to like sometimes put your finger on it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of insane as far as that goes. We already have a comment. Of course, Eric Thorpe Reviews commenting, Kim's Convenience is a great show. I've just recently finished it, and I'm sad it's not getting another season. Yes, unfortunately, we will.
Yeah. Eric, I'm with you, man.
We just kind of like let you in on a precursor. We've kind of like had a bad track record as far as Netflix shows that we love getting canceled preemptively.
We're cursed,
basically,
canceled preemptively. Like, first it was Glow, then it was this show, and I was talking to Chris a little. I'm like, Chris, are we jinxed? Like, please
every
tell me
time
this is not going to keep happening.
It gets canceled, or the second season has
like,
trouble, or
don't
whatever.
bother falling in love with show anymore, or like don't even like. Sometimes I feel like, why do I even bother picking a new show? Like, don't watch anything new.
And it sucks because we're both film school brats, so this is like second nature to us, just coming on and talking about film, and we seem to ruin it every time.
It's not even the fact of like just any run-of-the-mill show that we just happen to watch. It's always like that one cult little show that we would never watch and ends up like having such a special impact on us. Like, for me, like another big thing is Mindhunter, which, I mean, that's kind of up in the air right now, but like at the time, it's like, oh, that's another one. I'm like, what? This was great. This could have gone for like 10 seasons and it would have been incredible, you know?
And when you find a show like that, it's so special and you're like, nobody knows about it. This is my special like little gem and I'm going to have it forever. And then it's gone.
Yep. And then,
you got to fill that void.
Well, so it's funny because it's usually one of 2 options. It's either, yes, it's option A where it's gone before people get a chance to recognize it, or it blows up to mainstream, people start to recognize it, and then it just plummets in quality.
Yeah.
For me, I call that the How I Met Your Mother effect.
Game of Thrones.
But, yeah. But anyways, we're not, we're not quite ready for Kim's yet, because I kind of want to start out with like the artist that is Gabriella Sundar Singh. Like, what first inspired you to take the stage? You know, like take us to like your early roots and sort of like walk us through your history as an actor, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. All right, let's go way back. I'm a dancer. That's how I started out. So I'm a classical Indian dancer. The style that I do is called Bharatanatyam, which is from the south of India, which is part of my roots. And my mom was a dancer before me. So as soon as I was old enough to kind of, pick up my thing and stay with it, she put me in dance. And the really cool thing about this style of dance is that it is like in its essence drama dance. So it's not just like moves or like forms. Like we like story tell. Like you're like very specifically story tell. So I feel that I have been storytelling and performing since I was 4.5. And that was like the majority of my life. Dance has been my life. And I didn't really find acting per se until high school. I did my first musical, and like I guess that was my in. It was like grade 9. I tried out for the school musical. We were doing Crazy for You, and I got cast as a dancer. And I'm like, oh, so there's a place for me with like all these like, and I thought they were so cool. Like this is like me being like a total nerd in high school. I'm like, the theater people are like, those are the cool kids. Like I want to be up on stage with them. So you know what kind of kid.
We
I was
all know that
in high school.
mentality.
Yeah, I wish
Yeah,
I
no.
was. I played too
Yeah.
many sports when I probably shouldn't have. So
And I was just the guy who just was off reading books and just hating on everyone else. So
Right. And like, and I wanted to be up there so bad. It looked cool. It looked fun. There was just some kind of, I don't know, just kind of sparkle that the stage had. So I was cast as a dancer and then realized like, oh, it's all the stuff that I love to do. You put on your face, you do your hair, you get the costume, you memorize the lines. Like it was just so enchanting. And I loved doing it, but I never thought it was an option for me, like to do professionally, like as a career. I didn't know. I mean, like I genuinely didn't know. Of course, there are actors I admired, but I didn't know how they got there. I didn't have anybody in my family who'd like gone through it who was like a professional actor. I didn't have anybody to guide me through that. So I kept it as a hobby and something that I love to do on the side. And, you know, I also grew up singing and playing piano. So I had my outlets, but they were outlets. And as is pretty typical for a lot of South Asians and children of immigrants, I had the dream, which was like to get a really good, steady job, make my parents proud, you know, stay on the straight and narrow. So my dream was to be an orthodontist. I wanted to help. Okay. The reactions.
I wish so hard that we could act surprised by that, but like, come on.
You're like, no, we get it. It is my dream to like help people find their confidence through their smile. And that was the dream that I had chosen for myself. So that's what I was pursuing. And I actually applied to university for bio. So I got in for bio and I was going to be on this whole other trajectory, and I wouldn't call it my darkest timeline. In another timeline, I am living that dream. I'm an orthodontist. I'm helping people. And like, you know, we'll leave that timeline number 5. That's like somewhere over.
I'm already loving the community riffs. This is already off to a great start. I don't think you quite understand.
That's right. So you know, that's a whole other life that I could have led, but I didn't. I got my acceptance letter for university and was like, oh my God, the next 4 years of my life is going to be like labs and tests and all this stuff that I understood, I enjoyed, but I didn't think I was excelling at it. I had friends who were like super smart, and I knew that was like, you know, something's their thing. Like you look at someone and they're matched, whether it's their hobby or their career, and you're like, oh, that's their thing, and they do it really well, and they get it. It wasn't my thing, and my thing was performing and acting and singing and dancing. But I still didn't know if I could make a career out of it. Like, because everybody takes like such interesting paths, and maybe we could talk about that later, but like interesting paths to get here. And they never quite make sense. Like it's not a straight trajectory. It never, at least from my perspective, it never ever is. So I ended up switching my acceptance from bio. Oh, by the way, I went to the University of Guelph. It's a small agricultural town, university town, an hour from Toronto. Go Griffins.
Loving the small town cheer already.
I love my university. So I ended up going there for theater studies and just like went head first. Like I did all the productions. I took all the technical production courses. Like I loved lighting design and rigging lights and stage management and all that, and fell in love with theater. And I guess it kind of blossomed from there. I went straight from that program to a college program in Toronto at Centennial College, studied children's media. So it's like kids, TV, film, books. We did the production side, the business side, the development side, the creative side. And we had to fill an internship as part of the program. And God bless those programs that kind of give you that in or that opportunity to just like get a little taste of the industry. Like that's what those brilliant college programs are there for. And I really appreciate it. Shout out to great college programs. And I ended up doing my internship on, I don't know if you know the show, it's like a tween show, The Next Step. And it's about like a studio of dancers It's okay. You probably haven't seen it. It's not necessarily in your
funny you should
wheelhouse.
mention that. We'll get to that in a little bit. We actually already have a comment on that show, so funny you
Oh,
mentioned that.
Okay. And so I filled my internship on the show. I was the story intern for the first season. And because the show is about dance, and like here it comes full circle, and I'm a dancer, they ended up putting me in an episode, and I got to do like my traditional style, and everything kind of started bubbling, I think, at that point. Did the thing, got the agent, tried to like, go out for auditions, make it happen for myself. Wasn't easy. So guess what I did? I went back to school, and I went to the National Theatre School in Montreal. If there's any sort of comparison, it'd be like the Juilliard of Canada. I don't know if that helps as a comparison, but they have either similar founders or similar beginnings, similarly structured schools programs, I suppose. So I did that program, and that's one of those programs where like they connect you with like brilliant artists. I got my agent after like being in school, and here we are a few years later. Wow. So if I was going to sum that up, lots of post-secondary, lots of like try again, and lots of sticking with it, because if it doesn't work the first time, you might as well give another go.
You said that your mother was also a dancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
For her, I'm sure it was more of a hobby then. In other words, maybe just self-expression.
Yeah, totally. And like back home, like at least the way that my mom explains it to me, like everybody has a thing, everybody has an art. So you're either playing an instrument or you're doing a form of dance or a sport or something. Like it's just the way of life. Like everybody has their thing, their form of self-expression. So for her, it was dance. And I'm like, I'm just so thankful that she was able to share and give her passion to me, because where we are now, again, like if you follow the trajectory, it's not straight, it's a bit of this. I would never have gotten to where I am without her having that passion and then passing it over to me. It's just crazy how things work, right?
It is indeed. Well, like I said, it's funny that you mentioned the next step, because our guy, Eric Thorpe Reviews, literally just commented, hey, so I IMDb'd you, noticed your first credit was the next step. Did you know the creator of the show, Frank Van Keenan? I worked for him as an animator from 2018 to 2020. He's an awesome guy.
Eric! Yeah. Oh my God, this is so crazy.
Wow.
Yes, of course. I knew Frank Van Keenan very well. He was, so technically when I was doing my internship, he was my one of my, what would you call it, your mentors, like during your internship?
Yeah,
sure.
Mentors, bosses,
you're mentoring your boss.
Words, yeah.
Yes. So Frank being like the showrunner, the creator, the everything, one of the head writers. I was in the room, in the writer's room with him for that full season. They were like really generous. So after the writer's room was like, after everybody was moving to set to start production, they're just like, hey, Gabby, you want to come and see how a show is made? So I ended up, it was only supposed to be like a shorter internship, but got extended. And I spent that whole first season with them and got to see how a show is made, which was honestly, like school aside, one of the best educations I ever had, which is just watching people work and do their thing. And like me just being a fly on the wall and going, oh, so you communicate that with that person and then that gets done. And actually that is not your duty. So you need to ask, okay. Like there's this whole, right? It's this whole beautiful puzzle, the way something works, right, on a set. And anyways, just to add to that, Eric Thorpe, I think Frank Van Keenan is such a brilliant man. It was a brilliant mentor to me. And he's one of the reasons I am here today, because he gave me that chance. He gave me that episode way back when in season 1.
Wow. Small world. Yeah. What year was that? Yeah. Do you remember what year that was, circa, roughly?
Oh, goodness. That would have been, we were shooting the first season in 2012.
Okay.
So where are we now? That's almost a decade?
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. 9 years? Yeah.
So, Gabby, before we get sort of into your career, going out for your first few auditions and then leading to Kim's, I'm curious, like when did your parents start to see that, like, okay, she's not taking the path that we set out for her, but was there ever any hesitation? Did they support you out the gates? I know the whole thing about Kim's is it's sort of like that dynamic, and that's quite literally you. So I'm sort of curious, like, what your experience was. That did you have to win your parents over, or were they just like, no, she was born to do this, and even though it's not what we wanted, we're just gonna let her go after it? Like, what was that like for you as the early stages of being an actor?
It's so funny because I know they're out there watching, so I almost want to be like, "Hey, you guys want to answer this?" No, I'm kidding. For me, I gotta say, I'm really lucky. I have the best parents in the world. They're my best friends, and they've always been really in tune with what I want. They give me great advice, and they always do challenge me because I think it's really helpful in your life. Whoever your people are, they could be your parents, your best friends, your whoever, your mentors, someone who like does kind of like put up a mirror and goes, just like take a look at this before you launch into something crazy. And they always do that for me while supporting me. And when I got that acceptance letter and for my undergrad, and it was like, welcome, you're going to spend the next 4 years doing biology. Like, here's the rest of your life laid out for you. And when I panicked, and like I truly, truly panicked and called my parents into my room. Like I have what do you call it? Like a photographic visual memory. So when I talk about memories, I'm like picturing it and playing it out in my head. I could tell like the colors and like the lighting that day and the feeling and like how things like it like plays out like a movie, kind of like in my head. And I remember that works. It's hey, actually that's a good point. It is funny how that works. Yeah. But I called my parents into my room and told them I can't do this. I'm like I see where my life is going. I just don't have the interest anymore to pursue bio, and I just don't think I can do it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is where I'm at. And the only thing they had to say to that was, oh, okay, so what do you want to do instead? And that was the extent of the conversation. Like that was like my hesitation had like kept me from expressing like any of those like fears or hesitations ahead of time. And then after that conversation, it was just like, okay, cool. What do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to perform. I had the dream at the time, and I still do have the dream of being a kids TV host. It's like on my, like, you know, you got your list of things that you want to kind of do in your lifetime. And that's what it was. And I said, kids TV host. And they went, okay, all of the all like the radio, TV, television programs, like all the acceptances had closed. So that's why I ended up going to the same university, but for theater. But now theater has become my passion, and it's what I do professionally. Like, you know, we didn't know it was going to turn out this way, but my parents are extremely, extremely supportive, as is like all my extended family. Like in my early days, before I like even understood what this industry or how any of this works, like my mom, and she still does does auditions and self tapes with me. Like she'll like read the sides with me. She'll like drive me. She used to drive me to auditions and like wait outside and like either rejoice with me or like cry with me. Like they're incredibly supportive, and I understand what a privilege that is. I know not everybody has that support base in their life, but I think if I could share something, whether it's your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, your best friend, your mentor, like to find those people. And maybe you both like feel that way as you're pursuing your careers and in your life, that it really does help to have that person. Or maybe like your person is each other. Maybe like
pretty much.
You know,
yeah. I joke. People ask me all the time. They're like, why are you not in a relationship? I'm like me and Chris, basically, like we
pretty much are.
We are like a married couple at this point. Like, and somebody, a mutual friend of ours, literally said to us at one point, "Is like, I can tell." He was saying to Chris, like, I can tell you've been spending a lot of time with Dom because, literally, it's like somehow during the pandemic when we haven't interacted with anyone, you're like talking more as if like you and Dom are on the same wavelength than ever before. And I'm like, I mean,
I totally get that. And just to hop off that point, I find that during this pandemic, I've talked with like my best friends and like my core people more this past year than we ever have. And I'm talking my people, like my best friends, like the people that I love dearly in this world. We've communicated like more during this past year than we ever have. So I suppose there's like a tiny bit of good to come out of the bad. Yep. But anyways, that was all to say, find your people, whoever your people are, find your support base, because that's what's going to help you get through, you know, anything.
Yes,
totally.
Absolutely.
And that's so awesome that for you, it's your parents, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen that often. So, shall we move into the journey? So, How does that lead to how does your journey end up with you on Kim's?
Oh my gosh, right. Okay. So I had just graduated from my third post-secondary for people at home, if we're keeping track. So I just graduated from the National Theatre School, had my agent, and as far as I understood, and I'm still pretty, I still feel pretty green and new-ish, I suppose, to the industry, even though I feel like I've been at it for a while, but I still feel really new. So the way that I understood it at the time was, okay, you graduate from theater school, you get your agent, like these are like the steps, and then you go and kind of audition for anything and everything. And that's what those first couple of months, it's what it was. I was meeting, trying to meet all the casting directors in Toronto, auditioning for like TV, movie, commercials, theater, voiceover, you name it. I was going out for it. And it's more, and I think it was like that idea of new face. We got to get that new face into every room and see what sticks, right? Because I got to tell you, I didn't know what was going to stick. I didn't know what was my thing. I considered myself, especially out of theater school, like a dramatic actor. I'm like, I'm a very, serious, fine dramatic actor. Did I know I was going to fall, into comedy? I mean, I don't want to say I'm funny because then that sets me up for because I don't know if I'm a funny person.
We all know the track as far as how comedic actors go.
Right. So what we were just saying. So that being said, out of theater school, I had pretty early on an audition for Kim's, and it was for what season would it have been at the time?
If I'm remembering correctly, you came on at the end of season 2.
Right. Oh, right. So it would have been for season 2, but a completely different episode. And it was for a smaller part. I only had a few lines. I don't even know. I don't know what the episode was, but it was kind of like a walk-on role. I would have said a few things to Janet at the store and left. And so I went immediately online and I watched all of season 1, and you do your research. I wanted to get the tone of the show. I'm like, okay, this is about a family. This is about the Asian Canadian experience. This is about okay, I can immigrants and family. I can vibe with this because I do identify with the story. And then the night before the audition, it got canceled because they did some rewrites and wrote whatever that character was out of the show. And I was like, after all that effort. Right, like that.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
And it was I was so sad because I really wanted the chance to just, even if it was that one episode, to be on the show, and now I know like what a great Canadian classic it is. And even at the time, I'm like, yeah, just to make my mark and do a great Canadian, I guess it's a sitcom, family sitcom, just do an episode. So I had to like go, as you do in the industry. You brush it off and say, well, I guess that wasn't meant to be, and move right along. Cut to a couple of months later, this audition comes up for this character named Chelsea or like whatever. and I go in not knowing if I was right for the part. I also had my audition for the Shaw Festival, which is the repertory theater company that I've now been with for 4 seasons. I had these auditions back to back with not but 20 minutes between them to get across town and do them both. So it was a wild day, and I was trying to get in and out to this Kim's audition as quickly as possible. I'm like, I got to get to my next audition. I'll just hi, thank you for having me. Here I have the sides. Let's do the lines. And I just got to get going and trying to be as present as possible. And our wonderful casting director goes, okay, great. After my first round, and goes, okay, I'm going to give you a redirect. And it's always a good sign when you get a redirect, because it's they want to see if you can do more. I think they're vibing with you. But in my head, I was like, oh, please, 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 no more redirects. I can't do any more. The clock is ticking. I got to get across town, but you can't say those things. So you have to pretend that you're really present and okay. And I think the audition was the restaurant, that first episode, the restaurant scene. Yes. Where Janet changes her mind and I keep changing my mind, and I'm trying to be really friendly and cute about it, but I think I'm really annoying her. So it was that scene, and I got a call, I don't know, a few days maybe later saying, yeah, you're going in. I thought it was just like a one-off. I had no idea at the time how TV works, and like when you introduce a new character, how long they're going to last. I mean, I guess you tell me. I guess we never really know. But at the end of that episode, we shot for 2 days, and like I was like almost in tears at the end, like hugging people and saying like, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a great experience, and trying to be like really generous and humble about it. And it was super embarrassing then when I came back the next season for an episode, and I'm like, oh, hi, I said all my goodbyes already, but it's nice to see you all again. And it was supposed to be, I'm saying it's supposed to be, how do I know? I was only invited back, as far as I know, for like one episode, which turned into 2, which turned into 3 and 4, and it just kept rolling from there. So I never knew. I had no clue what what her journey was going to be.
Well,
like.
I mean, just to put that in perspective as far as that goes, I mean, like, you're invited on to do I love how they just write her in at the end of season 2 and how she quite literally just moves in with Janet and Gerald. And it's like, oh, okay, she's kind of just staying now, you know? So I guess that kind of like, again, like, just as far as like, this is just how good writers are, just as far as like kind of being like synonymous with like kind of and how good their actors are, you know? But like, to also put this in perspective as far as actors thinking they're only going to be around for a certain amount of time, Chris Pratt and Aaron Paul were both supposed to only be on for the first seasons of their respective shows that they went on to become tremendous superstars on with Parks and Rec and Breaking Bad. So just as far as like that being in perspective.
So
right, totally.
Speaking about sort of the character of Chelsea and, you know, you sort of getting this piecemeal, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing another episode. Oh, they want me back. When did you kind of know that you were going to be a mainstay? Was that sort of all of season 2, sort of piece by piece, and then season 3, or what was kind of your experience with that?
If you want to know the truth, I never knew. I absolutely never knew. And this is probably, again, like me being green, and also me, and this is like a thing that I do, not wanting to like fall in love with a show so much, like as we were speaking before, not wanting to fall in love with something or the experience of it so much that when it's taken away, it's devastating. And
tricky thing as an actor.
It's a totally tricky thing. And also, again, like me not knowing where Chelsea was headed, what her true purpose was. So I was piecing it together as I feel like I was almost experiencing it maybe the way audiences experience it when they watch it. They're like, oh, there she is again. That's interesting. I didn't know that about her. For me, it was the exact same experience. I mean, until the bitter end, not knowing where Chelsea was going. But it was exciting. I can say that. It was exciting finding out all these like, and you know, there's like strange parts about Chelsea, things we'd never know, that you just kind of like drops a piece of information and walks away. Right?
Yeah. So talk us through that, playing a character on a show that I think most actors dream of, having a show that has this sort of impact. I mean, you literally are so young on a once-in-a-lifetime show, and it's got to be amazing. Like, you have to be just obviously so excited. You know, this is a huge pedestal for your career. Just look at Simu, right? I mean, Kim's Convenience is literally the reason he is the Marvel superhero that he is right now. So what was that sort of like in the moment? Did you even kind of realize it? You know, the whole Andy Bernard quote of, I wish I knew the good times while I was in them, or were you a little more cognizant and sort of realizing you were in like a special sort of bubble? I'm curious about that as someone who clearly wishes he was there.
No, of course. I think I know it was special, and I knew it was special as it was happening. Not like the global impact, like how many people across the the nation, the world are going to connect with this and see themselves in the show. I don't think I understood that part. That it's like in retrospect now, looking back, and sometimes you do need the space and the time to understand that. But I knew while I was in it how special the team was and how special the experience was. Like, again, because I didn't know what they had in store for Chelsea. I didn't know if I was coming back next week. I didn't know if I would get to tie up my storyline. I did not know. So every time I went to set, it was like the same thing. I would leave, like, no one would know this, but I'd like get in my car and be like, oh my God, that was wonderful. Like, for me, it was like every episode, shooting every single episode was the dream. It always felt like the dream. And that is part and parcel because of the team. And you've probably heard this from other people who've been on the show. The team is incredible. The team was like, it's a dream team. Like from ins to like, you know, the whole like development and creative side and the production team and the actors. Like, there are so many people who are part of the show who came from the theater world. So for me, coming in as a theater nerd, I was like, oh, I think this is a place where I feel like I kind of belong, and I get the vibe, and everyone was so welcoming. I was learning how to do TV while I was on the show. I didn't have, I don't know, I just didn't have all the knowledge. I was coming as a theater kid. I was the person who, my first day, someone had to kindly come up to me and say, you can stop shouting your lines because the person's really standing next to you, and like you're blowing out the mic, like you're blowing out the boom. Because I'm doing the theater thing. I'm trying to hit the back row of the theater, which is what I was trying to do. And and I was also the actor who like would walk in and deliver my lines. Then this like really kind cameraman would come over and say, I really need you to hit your mark, otherwise I can't get you in frame. And I was figuring out all of this on the fly, on the go, with an extremely generous team who never made me feel small, but only let me make the mistakes and learn. Like, I don't know where else I would have been given that opportunity to like fail and fall and learn.
Wow.
So I knew the space, I knew the space, I knew the team, I knew the set was special.
Totally.
Did I know?
And everything you're describing seems to be what people speak about working with the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Sung-Yi Lee. What was that like for you? How is he as a performer? What was that like, being able to exchange with him as an actor? Love to know all about that. I
will say I don't think I get starstruck very often, because I don't really, even the idea of a star. These are people who perform for a living. This is just their job. They are everyday people, and for the most part, I think they like to be treated. I say they, actors, like to be treated as just people. But there is star quality and a power with Paul, especially him being like number one on set. He brought such a generosity, a love for the work and the art to set. The way that he would kind of like command a space, it's powerful. And like your number one sets the tone for all the other actors and for all the other kind of action on set. And he would always come in and set this tone that, again, is like generous and loving and like is all about community and teamwork. So like the few times that I got to do an episode with him, I was just like sitting there. It's like watching a masterclass, of someone who's like so good at his craft, but also can find like the snappiness and the joy and be like alive with it. I'm thankful that I even got those. I think it was only like 2 episodes that I ever got to be in the same space with him. But even like I would pass him in the hall and he would very generously say, "We're so happy to have you. We're happy to have you back, Gabby." Like, and actually make me like really feel like I belonged there, as did the whole team. But again, Paul being number one, he set that tone for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that's awesome about that too is like of all the people who we've interviewed, you're the only one that's actually gotten to act with both of now the current Disney superstars. Obviously, like, I'm sorry, still to me, probably my favorite, one of the funniest scenes that I've seen in the show is when Simu is trying to do the photo shoot, and he goes with Gerald first, and then the scene of him rubbing oil all over his abs. Like,
oh my god!
Like, do you remember that day? Like, I mean,
that's also my favorite moment. That is,
I'm sorry, I was laughing hard at that moment, like that, and just like your reaction, because like obviously Simu was like, yeah, obviously like Simu's again, like I know, like everyone with eyes knows that he's like one of the most attractive people I think I've ever seen, right.
So and Gerald sitting there freaking out, and you're like, "Don't worry about it, babe," and you just keep spraying more oil.
Oh my gosh, I thank you for reminding me. I completely forgot about that episode. Anytime getting to work with like more like anybody outside of our little like unit, 'cause like I spent the majority of my time with Andrea and Ben, Janet and Gerald. So it's always like, for me, it was always the trio. And anytime we introduced someone new, like this new kind of like electricity would happen in the room. And Simu's, he's amazing. He's, again, kind, generous, funny. And that particular episode, hey, it was, it's weird, right?
It was a gun show, all right.
It was a total gun show. And I remember there was like this really, I don't know, I don't consider myself a funny person, but I do like to try and make people laugh. Like that gives me like incredible like pleasure and joy. And I think we were like getting ready for this scene, and he was just like, stretching, trying to like pump up, because like if you're doing any sort of scene where you need to kind of show your body and it's a bit revealing, you want to feel the best. So I think he was doing some like push-ups and like getting ready to like go for the scene. And I don't know what it was. I don't know what I was thinking. I like got down and like did my push-ups and went, I'm ready. just so I could like, I don't know. I think I wanted to make him feel like we're on the same team. I got you. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Because
that better be in the behind the scenes if there's ever behind the scenes in the show.
I know. I wish it was in the behind the scenes.
That's great.
I know you actors are just so professional, and awkward things like that don't faze you. But I do have to think you might have helped him out there, because that is a really awkward moment to shoot. It's hilarious, but it must. Sure. I just could imagine.
Yeah, and then you see him, and then you see that body. You're like, yeah, that's why he's Shang-Chi.
That's right. And like, and again, like he's just the best part about him. He like, oh, of course, like he's such an incredibly like beautiful human being on the outside, but also on the inside. He's one of the people, even if we weren't working on a scene together that day, but we were hanging out in the green room. He was one of the people who would like consistently ask me like, how are things going at Shaw? Because I was shooting season 3 and 4 of Kim's Convenience while doing my seasons here. So I'll explain this in a second. I'll explain how that worked in a second. But Simi would like consistently ask, like, how's work going? How's the festival? Like, he'd ask me things like, how's your life after Kim's? And be like genuinely curious about my life as an actor. And I'm so thankful. Like he made me feel like human in those moments where it wasn't just about like acting and putting on this face. We were like people who did a job, and we're talking shop, like we said before. Like, I don't know.
That's awesome.
That about him.
That's really great to hear too.
Yeah. It's certainly refreshing. And I guess like just as far as our enjoyment of the show and everything, I mean, we were going to come to it at some point. I guess that's part of the reason why it makes the cancellation like so heartbreaking among so many different reasons. But like, I guess more so than anything else, just like kind of the very, very strange circumstances that caused the cancellation. Right. Because like I'm like as I'm trying to explain it, I'm like, yeah, this is literally like the strangest. Like this has never happened. Like any other show that like has been canceled, So like I guess that's like, I mean, we asked this of everyone. Like, just walk us through your feelings as far as like when you first saw the announcement, like what you were thinking of and everything, like how it made you feel in the moment, as far as how, and then obviously in retrospect, like all the people who you ended up finding out that like this show had touched that like you guys didn't even realize in the moment while you were shooting. Like, kind of walk us through that process.
Totally, yeah. I got a call before the I guess the official announcement was like made over like social media and made public. And it was just that, yeah, the show's ending, even though they were, greenlit for season 6, we're not going forward. And I'm trying to take myself back to that moment. Probably shock. I think I was just shocked, as I think a lot of other people who are involved in the show or enjoy watching the show felt and still feel, and some sadness because, like you said, this show has touched so many people globally, and people love the show, and it's such a unique show in what it says and what it does. And yes, we call it like a sitcom, but it doesn't follow the structure of some sitcoms. I don't know. It sits by itself for me. It's so special. So of course I'm so sad that it won't have its 6th season, and that it certain storylines or things that I know people wanted to see, wrapped up in a pretty bow. I know that won't happen. However, things happen. This is my first experience, it's one of my first TV experiences, and then first experiences playing a role for an extended period of time. So even for myself, even for that, I'm so incredibly grateful. And the fact that, I can speak for myself, the fact that, Chelsea won't have her little pretty bow wrapped up, that it's okay, because what I had was wonderful, and the things that I was able to do with that character, it's more than a dream come true. And I just hope that when season 5
is the one that just wrapped up. That was the last one.
And I don't think it's available globally.
Not yet.
Not
No,
yet,
yes, not
unfortunately.
just yet. Just
We
yet.
have seen it.
We have our ways of watching
Yes,
it.
yes. I know. I won't poke any further. But I hope that when like globally, when viewers get season 5, I hope they're able to enjoy it for what it is. And you know what? We don't always have the answers or the reasons why beautiful things come to a close, and that's okay, because again, when we had it, it was beautiful and good. And maybe it's time to move on to something else. I don't know.
In a way, unfortunately, I think that does speak to some of the subtext of the show where, hey, sometimes life doesn't go the way you intend it, but it's all about how you pick yourself up and recover. I feel that's a big part of Jung's journey and sort of Janet as she grows and becomes an artist. So, yeah, look, I think the impact you guys had as this little Canadian show that was on the CBC, which really up until Schitt's Creek, honestly, was a network that us here in America had really no familiarity with at all. To have covered the ground you guys have is incredible. So, and obviously you're a huge part of that. So, thank you for amazing art. And it does suck that we didn't get to see the end, but I think that was beautiful what you said about it, because it's life, you can't really lament.
Absolutely. And the other thing that, if I could just add to that, is the fact that, like, just as far as, like, how this is different than other sitcoms, because, like, even though I watch a lot of TV, I would not consider myself a sitcom guy, first and foremost. I've like my favorite sitcom is Community, the deconstructive sitcom,
High five. It's in my top 3. It's probably it's my top 2. It's in my top 2 of all time.
I love it. I've loved it ever since high school, and just like everything that show did. And like, it's funny because like when you said the 6th season, I'm like, oh, is she gonna do the end of the movie crack? I was waiting. But,
I'm sorry. I know. I'm so sorry.
It happens. It'll see it next time. But like the thing about this show that immediately caught my attention is the fact that, besides, it doesn't act like sitcom. I'm like, man, this just has a heart to it that so many other sitcoms do. Like the biggest thing to me of why I'll admit I'm not the biggest fan of the American Office. I actually much prefer the British Office, but the whole thing that always turned me off of the American Office, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that's fine. It's just like kind of how cynical it is, and kind of like how it like enjoys its cynicism, and I'm just, those types of shows just don't gravitate to me. I'm not a fan of those types of shows. And like the thing that immediately got me about the show is the fact that even though there are silly circumstances, there are kind of dumb things that happen on the show, like kind of any other show, it just has this unbelievable and like just kind of never-ending heart and spirit that like kind of fills you with so many good feelings, but not in a preachy or like a kind of a forceful sentimental way like a lot of sitcoms go with. And the other thing too, just as far as like, kind of everything that we're experiencing right now in America and everything, is that it's one of the most diverse shows, and it's fantastic as far as that goes. Like predominantly, obviously like Korean and Indian actors, and like it's fantastic as a result of it, No,
I totally get that. And I don't know. I mean, I think we could sit here and we could deconstruct the show and the whys, and of course, part of it is In's brilliance and the heart that he put into the original play, which has then become the show. You can also say it's part and parcel. It's the team that put it together, and the fact that they wanted to create something that spoke to the Asian Canadian, the immigrant experience. But like, again, like we could sit here and pick this apart all day, but sometimes there's this quality, right? There's this quality that you can't, at least for myself, I can't quite put my finger on. I don't know why it is what it is. How can something be, like laugh out loud, funny, and like also make you roll your eyes, but also in the same breath bring a tear to your eye, and then also make you think about your parents? Like, how does I don't know how a show does that, which is why when I say that it's unique, and I think you both understand that it's its own unique, wonderful thing.
It really is. Like
lightning in a bottle.
The moment that I keep
that's a great way to put it.
The moment that I keep thinking back, well, 2 moments in particular that like really get to me. Obviously, again, the Jung-Appa relationship is such a crucial part of the show, obviously, and everything. But like, first off, obviously, the moment to me when it's Jung sitting next to Appa after Appa's just had his operation, and like kind of they're back and forth while Appa's still kind of high, and he doesn't realize that it's Jung, but he does, that just spoke to me as far as that goes. I'm like, wow, that was. I even texted Chris after that. I'm like, okay, that scene alone elevates this above like most of the sitcoms that I've watched. And then the other scene too is, again, end of season 2, like both penultimate episodes of the season. Funny how that works. Definitely not like it was planned or anything. Is when Appa is texting Jung, but Jung doesn't know it's Appa, kind of like that thing, and how it leads to the scene in the bar. And in any other sitcom, that would just lead to like this blown up, forced like confrontation thing. But like that moment just leads to like this really awesome moment of the two of them just sitting there and like having this great back and forth. And I'm like, oh man, like why can't we get this in like every show? You know?
Totally. You know what? Okay, you know what that makes me think is that I feel a lot of the situations that the Kim's characters and the Kim's family go through, maybe they're just more real or normal.
Yeah.
Like these are things that happen to people who live in a city, who have relationships and friendships and parents, like, and siblings. Like these are just people. So like versus in that final scene going to like blow up and it's a big confrontation, or like, oh, you know, someone falls out a window and like, bah, bah, bah. Like instead of going that direction, you just go, well, what's the most kind of funky, odd, like awkward thing that could happen to me in real life? Because life is awkward. Life is funky and weird. We get into strange situations every day, but it's like real. So maybe like that's part of that lightning. Like that's the quality. It's just let's just tell real stories about real people. And like sometimes you kind of like gas it up a little, but that's the relatability factor. And like that's part of what makes it. That's part of what makes it special. You know?
Definitely.
I certainly think so. I think there's a lot to say there in regards to that. So I know we're sort of rounding the corner here. I also want to talk to you about, Shakespeare and the Shaw Festival. It seems to be a big part of what you do. So tell us everything you think we should know about that, because like I told you pre-stream, I've always loved Shakespeare. I actually picked up and this might be sacrilegious, but I picked up a Star Wars Shakespeare book. Someone wrote The New Hope in Shakespeare. Like that's how into Shakespeare I was when I was younger. Yeah, it's awesome. I'll show you sometime.
That is so.
It's hilarious.
That is so cool. That is so cool. That's like
to me.
This is
I've been to a summer theater where we in our area. There's a river, and we cross the river and we go, and there's like right in front of a big military base. You can watch Shakespeare in the park. And so I'm just curious about your experience with Shaw. It seems pretty cool, and it seems like you guys do a lot. I follow the Instagram, so.
Totally. And I just want to say that is like nerd level 1000, which makes you my friend. That is so beautiful, by the way, like the meeting of two worlds, like this is like Star Wars and Shakespeare and the adaptability of art. That just so you know, I'm a huge advocate for like take art, adapt it, rip it apart, put it back together. I'm not personally very precious about the classics. We have the classics, but there's so much space to explore. So I think that's just I need to find that. That's so cool. Anyway, so I didn't know I was going to end up at the Shaw Festival. So again, this is one of our two big repertory theater festivals in Ontario. So Stratford is in Stratford, Ontario. Shaw Festival is in Niagara-on-the-Lake. This is where I am. And like, it's kind of a joke. We're kind of like rival repertory theater companies. But a lot of the actors and artists, we actually end up going between the festivals. But like when you're here, we kind of like boo them. And when you're there, you kind of like boo here. But it's like our inside joke. We actually love each other because we're all friends and family. But I would say I was one of those kids in high school who, like, when we were doing our English unit, I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed Shakespeare. I enjoyed like complex imagery and complex language and something that challenged me. I was into it. I was the kid who like got it. Like we'd be reading, I don't know, what do you read in high school? Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, the Scottish play, whatever.
12th Night was the one that I remembered the most.
Oh yeah, totally. And I got it. I understood it. And maybe it was part of that, like that early seed of like wanting to perform, like imagining like how I would do it up on stage, or imagining like how it would look or how it would feel. Maybe that was part of that. And like during my undergrad, I was super fortunate enough to do like 2 of my summer courses in Stratford. So like there's a bunch of us university students. We lived in town, we saw the shows, met the actors, and like it was just a full summer of Shakespeare. And it was like, oh my God. For me, growing up, like in the secret back of my mind, I was like, that's where I want to end up one day. Like I want to be up on those stages with all those brilliant actors. And after my last program, I didn't end up at Stratford. I ended up at Shaw, which is like its own beautiful magical place. And like, so here we focus on the works of George Bernard Shaw and his contemporaries, and we kind of have our own mandate for the kind of work that we like to do. This is all to say, we are here, at least I feel like I'm here, to explore language, to challenge ideas, and I don't know, and to like bring art to the masses. That is like one of my missions in life, and that is I think a mission of the festival. So give me complex imagery, give me complex language, give me a challenge. I love, like, theater is my first love, and I there's always those stories about, like, you want to be on stage until like the day you die. Like people say, like, it'd be, oh, like how beautiful or romantic or tragic it would be to like be giving like your final performance and you take your last breath and like you just like you die on that stage. That is dramatic, but I do like I have such an incredible love for theater, and I'm very thankful for theater because it's given me this confidence as an artist and as a performer that I've then taken into my TV world and my TV life. So yeah, I'm in my 4th season now. We are rehearsing on Zoom, attempting to still create theater. I mean, let's be real, the theater community, our industry has been devastated by the pandemic. So many people have lost their jobs, and I'm thankful that I even have this opportunity to be employed, because like, hey, employment in the arts, it's no joke. It's no joke. And like, if you got to chase those opportunities, and if they're there, you take them. And I have such an incredibly supportive community. Hey, if you're ever in Niagara on the Lake, come see a show and check out our kooky little town. I love it so much here. And again, like, I did my audition for Kim's and this festival on the same day. So there was something really like auspicious about them, like both coming into my life. Like, when I say like, and it's like, it's weird. Like, it's weird how like those auditions were 20 minutes apart. And in both of them, like, I felt good, but also like walked in like, I'm just going to do my best and walk away, because I'd hit that point in the day. Like, I hit that point in, like, it was a whole summer of auditions, and like, it's like, I'm just going to throw it all out on the floor. And these two things have been these mainstays. Kim's and Shaw have been these mainstays. Woo!
That's awesome.
In my life for
fantastic.
I hope you wrote that day down somewhere and celebrated each year.
That's honestly insane. Like, the two biggest gigs so far.
It's a special day. And like, I have to say, like, I was doing them both at the same time. So we work here from Tuesday to Sunday, and our only day off is Monday. So I'd be rehearsing and performing 6 days a week. I'd drive overnight to Toronto. I'd shoot a full day of Kim's, and like, I would call them like Chelsea Mondays, because we had to get all of Chelsea's coverage one day. There's no reshoots. There's no redos. There's no time. So we just shoot all day. I get back in a car, drive back here, and go to work. And it was,
when did you sleep?
Yeah, for real.
mean, like, my parents would drive me sometimes. My sister would drive me, and I would like nap on the.
Right.
Okay, that's good. You got a great support system.
Obviously, I've heard that like certain actors, I would obviously get their 8 hours, but like, God
right.
damn, that's
no,
right, that's crazy. Wow.
I believe in the hustle. You gotta keep going to make it happen.
Especially
P.S. Can I ask you both a question?
Of course.
Sure.
Because I'm always curious to hear what do you think about Chelsea? What was it your first? What was your first impression of the character versus maybe how you got to know her as the seasons went on? Because I know she's kind of kooky.
Yeah.
But I think that's the fun of her. But like, I don't know what I will put words in your mouth. So
man, the turntable. Chris, you want to take this first or me?
Sure, I can go first.
You take this first.
All right. Well, Gabby, I'm going to be honest, and I know it's nothing against you personally. I know you won't take it personally because you're an actor just playing the role. At first, both Gerald and Chelsea really had to win me over. I was not the biggest fan.
I'm with them there. Yeah.
Seeing them get larger parts, and I think the show, I think a lot of shows find their voice, and Dom and I, we're more on the critic side of thing, and we've been studying so many shows over the past few years, and I think you can really see when that moment clicks and when that show finds its voice. And for Kim's, I think it's season 3, because suddenly the things that would irritate me about how Janet would mishandle situations where I thought, I know she's smarter than that. Why did she do something so stupid there? She gets frustrated, but that she's smarter than that. She would have been able to prevail in that moment, I felt. Season 3 is when it all clicked. And I think that sort of beautiful coalescence of the 3 of you guys in the apartment, the 3 characters who I thought needed more development, you guys finally got that development. And then I realized, okay, it's not really a Chelsea, Gerald, or Janet thing. It's just the show was still very young. And I didn't realize the whole sort of whirlwind that must have been happening to the creators with the success at that point in time.
Totally right.
I think it's the more at bats with Chelsea is when she's now one of my favorites. Like if I had to do a top 5, Chelsea would be in my top 5. But if the show hadn't gone on to do the success, I don't know if I could say that. So hope it didn't offend you. I just wanted to be honest.
No. I'm just like, I find my character can be like the great divider. From what I understand, you love her or just like absolutely detest her. So I'm always I'm always interested to hear. Yeah.
My mom really likes the show, and she asked me who we were interviewing from Kim's tonight. And I said, Chelsea. And she goes, oh, the cute, crazy girl. And that was all she said.
I will take it. Cute, crazy. Hey, alliteration.
That's
it works. I like it.
That's such a Chris Mom's response.
It's on those.
Oh, man. I'm really mad, honestly, because Eric kind of stole my answer as far as when Chelsea won me.
No,
I'm totally Chris's boat as far as that goes. I will definitely bet both Gerald and Chelsea when they were first introduced. Again, it was the same things with the Kims. I'm like, oh no, are we starting to sink back into kind of generic, kind of, poppy over-the-top sitcom characters? And then the minute, well, first off, kind of when she does the kind of impromptu move in and then everyone just kind of goes along with it, I'm like, oh, okay, let's see where this goes. This is a different direction. All right, what's it called? This could be interesting, Yeah. And then, again, the minute that she mistakes Janet's signals and just makes out with her, and just like her little back and forth with Gerald, I'm like, all right, fuck it, she got it, let's go. I'm like, let's go from here.
I mean, I tried and still try to figure out, like, she's this great like foil, like in this trio of a relationship. She's there to kind of like she's like a little wrench. She just keeps throwing herself
so
into the situation.
Unbelievably endearing and always even when she's like kind of like saying like some really kind of diminutive and kind of emasculating things to Gerald, she's got such an upbeat tone to her. She's literally like, I still think one of my favorite lines.
The smile. That's something I learned from her. You can say whatever you want, but you say it with
think it's like when she's talking to Janet, it's like, oh yeah, with some prospects of this guy that she knows that she's not going to last long with, and then Gerald's like, what? And she's like, oh, nothing, bud, and I'm like, oh my god. Like,
oh my god, I know. Actually, the moment that you're talking about, just killed me with the writing, but also I don't know, again, like, because I was like learning TV as I was on the show. When I finally saw the episodes, I was like, hey, that's not bad in the delivery. Like, we got the cute crazy and we delivered a story and it worked. And anyways, cool, thanks for answering that. I'm always just curious.
For sure.
And
you have the most unique way of talking.
It really is.
Chelsea has the most unique vocabulary. Hey, Bum Bum. I'll never forget Bum Bum. I say it to my dog sometimes just because I think it's so funny.
That's another thing. I thought Bum Bum was going to really annoy me. And then now I'm like, yep, there it is. That's just another staple of the show. And I love it. Can
I tell you?
The show's ability to infect you as far as like just the endearment level is, I think, unparalleled by any other.
Yeah. I got to say, I like would have these moments when I would get the script for the next episode. I would sit there and go, is someone bugging me? Like, is someone listening in on my conversations? I really do feel like the writers, I don't know how they did it, but they were able to infuse like a little bit of me, like as the show went on, into the character, or it's like when those things like art imitating life imitating art, or just like that intersecting. Maybe sometimes it just magically meets, because I'm the kind of person, I do like Bum Bum is like something I would cutely say in my life. So when it ended up in the script, I gotta say, it's one of those like freaky moments of like, it's happening.
Well, see, it's funny because you say that, but there is a long history of that, and in television, just because like the whole thing is that, right, at the end of the day, like the writers are writing for the actors. It's this kind of beautiful coalition, but at the end of the day, the actors are the ones that are on screen saying the lines. So obviously, they want it to be as truthful as possible. And at least as I find good shows do. Good shows want the characters to be as truthful to the actors that are portraying them as possible. Like my favorite show of all time is The Sopranos, and the biggest thing that I hear on the behind the scenes of that show is how they would literally just take isms from the actor's real life and just put them in the script. Like, because a famous thing that I heard is Tony Sirico, the actor who plays Paulie on that show, he said at one point that he'd never been to Italy. Next thing you know, it's written in the script that he's like, yeah, I've never been to Italy, you know, as far as I capture the character, like the writer. So I don't know about bugging, but more so just the fact that, like, that's how good the writers are. You know, they gotta be, they are the ones that are crafting these storylines. They gotta be in tune with the actors and their sensibilities in order to like craft like the, you know, the most authentic thing possible.
And this was my first time really like witnessing it and then experiencing it and going, oh, wow. Like, oh, there goes the clock tower.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's totally fine.
No, it's fine. Anyway, I'm happy to keep chatting, but
awesome.
but yeah. Anyways,
I think this is like the first time we've had like an interview that we could just like nerd out about TV with. Like that's awesome. That's the fact that we could do that.
Yeah.
I know.
With you.
I agree. I think my last question for you is because I had a similar transition in the sense that I've been a musician for a long time. I toured and, you know, did that for a little while, and, you know, bands break up and we go separate ways. But so that was my avenue of performing, right? Being on stage in front of people in a different light than you. But now I've I still make music, but obviously with COVID, you know, I've really dove in head first into the podcasting. And so it's a different type of performance, right? Like we have people in the chat right now, but there was a transition there. Maybe not as drastic as yours. But my last question for you is, what was that sort of like, you know, transitioning from theater to TV? I know you briefly touched on it, but I'm sort of curious, like the actor's take, you know, not just getting cues from people on set, but like, how did you prepare for that?
I mean, I went into like the first thing I ever shot after school, and this is like not including the next step because I was there as a dancer, and that just felt like a whole other thing in a different time in my life. But before Kim's, I'd only shot 2 other things. It was an episode of Frankie Drake, which is another like Canadian female-led mystery show. Yes. And that episode of, it must have been, Talkin, the TV series. So I shot like those 2 episodes and then went into Kim's, and then Kim's happened. So I didn't really have, there was no run up, there was no real training. I would tackle every episode and every opportunity the same way I would do in theater. I get my script, I do my text work, I memorize my lines, like I find my definitions if I need to. I try to understand, I read the whole script if they give me the whole script to like understand where my part fits into the episode. I'll like, if this was a couple of seasons in, I would go back and try and watch older episodes to like get the tone of like the way Chelsea talks. So I could try and like match it and like live in that world. And yeah, I all I knew and all I have are my theater roots and my theater skill set. So for me, it's all the same. Yeah, I think I can say that. It's all the same work. It's just a different frame, right? So I like, again, like you said, besides needing like the little nudges from like people on set who are just like, maybe you want to try it this way because I just didn't know any better. For me, the transition has always just been, okay, so I'm used to doing this for this kind of audience, and I'm trying to hit, like we always say, you gotta reach that person in the back row. Is that used to be my frame, and now this, and especially with COVID right now, I've been doing a lot of like Zoom online digital theater. Now it went from like that frame to this frame. And I don't think I changed too much of what I do. Hey, maybe to my detriment. I don't know. I don't really know how to take this down. I don't really know where the dial starts and stops. I just keep doing what I know how to do. And then the other part of that is like, I try and watch really brilliant people on set. So like that very first episode of Frankie Drake that I did, I was there with actually across from the lead. And this is like my first like TV role where like I'm speaking and I have like an actual like narrative to keep going and a part to play. And genuinely what I was doing was watching her kind of like settle into her character, breathe, the way like she talked to like other people on set. And I just tried to not imitate, but take the best qualities of what she was doing and like give back to her and meet her where she is. And then all that being said, I still don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm a
Let's
I'm
be
a
honest. Though,
professional.
don't we all? Don't we all kind of
Yeah.
really have an idea of what we're doing? You know, we kind of just stumble our way to the next thing.
Yeah, you do, and I'm happy to keep stumbling my way through my art and through TV and keep learning. And I'm big on failure. I'm big on making mistakes. One of the best things I ever did for myself was take some improv classes at the Second City. We have there's one in
New York.
There's one in New York, and I think Chicago's the other big base, and we have
Chicago.
We have a big Second City family and base in Toronto. So like it was there I learned. I'm like, it's the best quality, not just for acting, but for life. Get up and be ready to make an absolute fool of yourself and fall on your face and be bad. Because like, who cares about being good? It's way more interesting to just try, right? Yep. So that's what I do every day, whether it's theater or TV. I just try. And then like, you have to have the good enough like humor to laugh at yourself. I love messing up. I love laughing at myself. Like, I don't know. That's
amazing.
Humility. That's life, I think.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's great advice for any young actor out there watching, for sure.
Absolutely. And look, I feel like, if there are people who are ever feeling like kind of not confident or about their acting ability, just remember Tommy Wiseau and Neil Breen are people. So just keep that in mind as far as that goes. So I had to bring that up. Real quick, I just got to bring it. Have you heard of the gem that is Fateful Findings?
Fateful Findings.
Fateful Findings. If you have not heard of it, just look up Fateful Findings laptop scene. You'll thank me later. It is glorious as far as that goes.
And do you mean glorious as in like it's so terrible it's glorious? Is that okay?
Yes. That is exactly what I mean. Chris and I have talked about a lot of bad movies, but I keep telling Chris, I'm like, Chris, you don't know bad movies.
Yeah. We're slowly crossing them off my list as we do this show. That's another podcast.
Yeah, but seriously, thank you so much for coming on. This was absolutely fantastic. So the last question that I have for you, which is the last question that I've asked every one of our guests so far, is favorite movie, favorite TV show, and what's something that you've seen recently that you love?
Okay. Favorite, it has to be one. I'm just gonna, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
go for it.
Go for it.
What do you feel like? Okay,
so like, I know this is like the worst answer. Big nerd. Big nerd. In my top movies, there's the Harry Potter series. Why? Because it brings me great joy.
Of course.
Why? Because it takes me back to my childhood. Why? Because, in another alternate universe.
Yep. In another timeline.
I got my letter. I was sorted into Gryffindor. I'm living a beautiful, magical life somewhere in that other universe. So like, I'm just like that, that's just like.
Do you have a particular favorite of the series?
Okay. Number one, because that's what started it off and like set the tone. And it was so like new and beautiful. And like that whole genre of like, like magic, kids and living their life and school and saving the world, that time. Two, because it was, I'm doing the thing. 2 was absolutely terrifying, gave me nightmares for years. 3, new direction, new style of cinematography. Not everyone's favorite, but it was like the best book. 4 also gave me nightmares. 5, I think, is my top. 6 was heartbreaking. 7 part 1 and 7 part 2 was like everything I wanted it to be, and also too long, but like great.
That was already the greatest like 2-minute summary of the entire movie franchise I've ever heard. So thank you for that. Just me personally as a Harry Potter fan, because man, I agree. Like the only thing I'll kind of disagree with you on is I think kind of everyone came around and like summarily knew Prisoner of Azkaban was like just unequivocally the best because that's Quaron and he's just a master of his craft, obviously. And favorite TV show.
Okay, favorite TV show. We already kind of covered
Community.
Like, and this is
It is.
Okay, that's fine. Agree to disagree. Everybody has their opinions on art, and that's like the beautiful thing. We can have discussion. It's up in my top 2 are Community and Archer. I watched them on loops. Actually, 2 days ago, I finished my last loop of Archer, and I'm probably going to start it again. Those 2 are the shows that I have on at any given time of the day. I would love to say like I can quote every episode by heart. I don't have the best memory, so no. But there's something about both the humor of both of those shows that is just I don't know. It's like totally up my alley, especially Archer. It's like they're the worst people.
Oh,
they're the
awful.
worst people
they're
on.
so awful,
They're
but they're
awful people.
I still think that one of the lines that just came out of nowhere. It just had me dying laughing, and is the scene in season 5 when they're about to go down into the swamp, and Cyril's like, "Choose Archer, your mother, or the alligators." He's like, "What's the difference? They're both prehistoric blood-sucking reptiles." Or something.
Wow, I have not seen the show. That is very intense.
Oh man,
it is.
Oh,
it's a totally
God,
intense show, but
it's amazing.
but it's
right from the first episode too.
Right from the first episode. And I really love the
hilarious.
first season because again, it sets the tone for everything, and I do think it's the best season. But those have been my top shows for a long time now, and I'm gonna keep rewatching them until I can't.
Yes.
Until I can't.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Gabby, before we let you go and you answer our final question, Kim's actually knocked out How I Met Your Mother from my top 5 of all time. So, yeah, one of your shows of mine is on instant loop. Yeah. It sucks becoming a critic and going to film school and kind of realizing like How I Met Your Mother is a bit messy, but I still kept it in there for sentimental reasons.
Which for me too did not age particularly well, but
you guys knocked it down a peg. But
oh wow,
just wanted to throw
I'm
that
on a
out
loop.
there.
Yay.
You're on a loop. You're on a loop. It's all a simulation, some would say. Elon Musk would, but that is definitely a different podcast now.
Right?
That's right.
Dom wanted to know, and I think it's a great question. What are you watching at the moment?
Okay, currently, I think it's on Prime. It's an animated series called Invincible.
Yep. Already knew it. The minute you said animated, I'm like, yep, Invincible.
Yeah, I'm so into it. I was the kid who got up and like on Saturday mornings and needed to see the new episode of like X-Men, like the old animated X-Men series. Like it's just I won't say like I'm a comic book nerd because I haven't like read like the original text, and I know that's a whole other thing, and like that you got to pay tribute and honor to like the original work. But I am like an animated series comic book adaptation fan, if that helps.
God.
So I love Invincible. I love how like gritty and gross and it is, but also like it's a story about like family again. I think it's a story about family and a father and son and connection. I find it fascinating. Oh, and all the like amazing voice actors. Like, come on, like it's just like stellar cast. Yes. So I love that. I'm so interested to see how.
Did you watch the most recent episode that came out last week? Oh wow! Yeah,
we need to talk. Yeah,
well,
No
afterwards.
spoilers, please.
No
I plan on
spoilers
starting
for
it actually
but,
tonight.
Yeah, it's fantastic, that show.
It's fantastic, and again, it's my kind of show. It's right up my alley. So I'm so happy I found it. It's one of those like recommendation things. I'm like, we try, and then, but again, I don't want to fall in love with it too much. What if it goes away?
Considering that it's already been renewed for not 1 but 2 more seasons, I think we're good for
You're
now.
in luck. Okay, it got the Kim's effect.
Yep, it did.
That's right. Okay, we got it for now. And
amazing.
This other thing on I think it's on Netflix. Shadow and Bone.
Yep.
Anyone?
Yep. That one just came on. I haven't got a chance to check it out yet, but it's already been getting like rave reviews.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
On a book series. My sister and I started it the other day, and we ordered the first book because like we had to rewatch. Sorry, we had to rewatch the first 15 minutes like 8 times. Because there was so much information that just like it's one of those books adapted to series that like it has so much there's so much detail. So like if I can imagine, I was saying this to my sister the other day, I can imagine that this is maybe how people who first watched the Harry Potter movies who didn't know the book felt. Because I know like if you don't know the original text, you're like, these are just words and things and people, the things that are coming at me, and you can't like really necessarily soak it in unless you know the original material. And this one, it's a great series, but I do feel like there's so much I'm missing out on. So I'm really interested to read the source material because like there's this whole world they create and they have their own set of rules with magic, and it's cool. It's cool. I don't know. And if and maybe this is me just not knowing enough, but there are a lot of faces in that show that I'm not familiar with, like a lot of actors that I don't know their history and their works. I'm really excited to kind of get to know them. Like that's always a fun thing about a show, right? Is like getting to know a whole new cast, and then you do your Google and your IMDb and find out about them. Like I love that stuff.
The first episode hooks me, I'm on IBM for another half hour before I watch the second one. So
IBM, if only, right? IMDb, I think you mean.
IMDb, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dom.
Oh, you're on your IBM computer on searching IMDb.
I'm on my gateway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I think that's what I've been watching. That's what's keeping me, company during these long days where we can't. We're on what do you call it? Stay at home lockdown.
Yeah,
order
lockdown.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So not going anywhere anytime soon. But I have Netflix and Prime and Crave and all of that to keep me company.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to be probably HBO Max and Hulu as well. But yeah. Gabby, thank you so much for coming on. This was honestly a blast. Like, of course, it's so sad to say goodbye to Kim's, but it's fantastic. And hopefully, again, as I've said to every single other cast member that we've interviewed, we'd love to have you back, seriously. Because, like, you seem to, in addition to obviously just being incredibly talented and just incredibly well-informed, obviously, on your stuff, you just, like, seem to be, like, an awesome TV nerd. So, like, we'd love to have you back on as far as, like, just future episodes go.
Oh, I'd love to be back. I guess I don't really have, I don't know. I don't really have too many people in my life that like I talk shop with, but I am like, I do have a lot of like completely useless like TV film knowledge. And even if I haven't like seen the thing, I know of it because I'm that person. Like I watch shows with my phone going, so they were in this. Oh, they also wrote that for that. And they co-starred with, and that person's daughter is this. Like I love making the connections.
Chris, are you getting deja vu a little bit? You get a little bit
sounds
of deja
like
vu
sounds like I now know a second Dom.
Yeah, right. I was about to say.
But
no.
no, Gabby, this was truly incredible. You know, I've had 2 different record contracts in my life. I've seen the inside of a music industry that I became very disheartened with my passion. And sort of speaking with you, Kim's actors, just how down to earth you guys are, and you know, there's so many different ways you could play the success, and it just really makes me feel like, hey, you know, I've only seen a small taste of the entertainment industry. There's no reason to be disenfranchised, and I think people like you are what we need right about now. So thank you for being so humble, so kind, and generous with your time and coming on the show.
Of course, and thank you for having me. I truly do think like the whole point of any sort of art that we create is to connect. It's not about the money or the fame or I don't know. It's not even about being interesting or entertaining. It's about connection. So whether it's like music or TV or film or theater, if we get to do this, if we get to connect, I think like, let's just check that box. We've done what we have to do.
Absolutely.
You know?
Totally.
Yeah. And where can the good people find you on the interwebs?
Where can people find me on the interwebs? I think on Insta. Oh God, let me take that back. On Instagram. Oh dear God. On Instagram, I'm Gabby with an I_tiny dancer. Oh man, I thought I was so brilliant when I first came.
Yeah,
up
I was
with
about to say, I'm like, that definitely seems like.
I like it now, though. I understand it. I didn't know you were a dancer. Are you also an Elton John
fan? It
fan?
makes sense now, obviously.
I suppose so. I don't know. I was trying to be. Yes, I love Elton John, but it wasn't. I was just trying to be interesting, and now years later, I know that there are millions of Emily tiny dancers, Carrie tiny dancers, and we all exist on Instagram together. If I could take it back, I probably wouldn't. I know. I'll stick with it. Gabby, Gabby
Don't ever
go follow her, guys. Keep up to date with her career. It's sure to go places. I mean, she's already done so much in such a short amount of time. So just follow her at Gabby_tiny dancer. Yes. Stay up to date with all that she does, because I'm telling you guys, you want to keep an eye on all of these Kim's actors.
You do.
That's the one thing I'm going to say. If you haven't seen the show, you don't understand what I mean by that. But
this is only the beginning, as far as I'm concerned, for everything. And of course, I am Dom the Movie Nerd. That is Chris the TV Nerd. You can follow us, of course, on Talkin TV Podcast. If you click the subscribe button, click the bell next to it. That way you guys get notified every time we put up new content. Overall, we've got so much more content coming for you guys. The interviews are just beginning overall. We've got Talkin' Thrones starting up this coming weekend. It's only the beginning of the rest of the year for us. And Chris, where can the good people find you?
Yeah, man. They can find me at Christian Ivanko on Instagram. Ivanko spelled Evanko. I make music, which you guys can go listen to through the link in my bio. I have new music coming later this year, but I still really enjoy my old catalog, and it's not that old, so go check it out. I also have another podcast called Talkin, spelled the same way we do it right here on this show with Andrew and Chris. That's more of like a variety-style, music-based show about life, music, and everything in between. You guys can also find that on Instagram, and thank you again so much for supporting this show, hanging out with us on this interview. It was amazing. And before we let you guys go, Dom, I think you have some social media stuff, right?
Indeed. Sarcastically posting at all times on Facebook and Instagram at Movie Nerd Reviews, although just recently I did post about my new cart that I just bought on Instagram. So that was a little bit of a humble brag as far as that goes. But you can mostly find me on our social media pages here at Talkin TV Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, where we post the latest updates about everything that's going on our channel. I wanted to once again extend a gracious thank you to Gabby for blessing us with her presence tonight on our latest fantastic Kim's Convenience interview. Again, if you guys have not checked out this show, I cannot recommend it enough. It made me change my tune on sitcom, so imagine what it could do for all the rest of you guys out there. And as always, people, 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies and TV. We'll see you guys next time.